All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday. I don't know where these days go. I decided yesterday that I'm no longer attaching meaning to any day of the week or whatever a weekday or a weekend is. You just do you, and you figure out how to manage it all right now. And that's just what we do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited about today's guest. He and I really just really connected this year, and he's just an amazing human. And I've really gotten to know him. I'm so grateful and honored he asked me to moderate one of his groups, because that's kind of his forte, is he builds these massive communities. You may have heard of them: Lab Code Agents, Command Your Conversion, just these few little small Facebook groups. And one thing that he's been really passionate about that we have in common is mindset right now, and what people are going through. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of a controversial topic today, but get your questions ready because I think it's really important. So Nick, I usually let the speaker go and take it away. So go ahead and take it away. And then if I need to jump in or ask questions, I will, but you're a pro at this. So they want to hear you, not me. Where'd you go? Nick? He's like, peace out, I'm done. Where'd he go? He really disappeared. Maybe he's coming back. Nicholas, where'd you go?
I saw his camera go out first and I was like, ah.
Uh-oh. All right. So while we're waiting for him to get back on, what questions do you have for Nick? Oh, there he is. There's Nikki.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button on my computer and the whole thing turned off.
Oh my goodness. You're crazy. All right. So what I said, did you hear me?
No, you were like, hey, good morning. I don't know what day it is. And then I clicked, thought I was clicking volume, but I clicked power. And usually when you click power, the computer then goes, are you sure you want to turn your computer off? But no, it didn't do that. It was just like, okay. And it was like, I think the computer is angry with me for just being on all day long and having to listen to me talking to the screen.
So what I said was, we're just going to let you go for 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, they're here to hear you, not me.
We're supposed to have a conversation.
Well, we can have a conversation if that's what you want to do. So what I told them was,
I didn't prepare a speech, but we can just talk. Yeah, that's fine.
No, that's perfectly fine. And what I said was that we're going to talk about a topic that you've been really passionate about, that I'm passionate about, which is mindset and positivity and really getting through this. And I think we've now shifted, like our governor is making, in Florida, is making some big announcements today about the next phase. So I think people's mindset is going to start to shift even more. So Nick, start us off, and then we'll just conversate.
So I made a video earlier I think it was last week, because I was feeling like there was a lot of, let me rephrase that. We have to have a lot of empathy right now, even if we don't know, even if we can't relate specifically to what people are going through, right? And we're all in our houses, and depends on where we live, right? Like I have a large house, so I don't feel necessarily like I'm quarantined all the time, right? But then then there's other people that don't live in larger environments. Like some people have smaller 1-bedroom apartments or smaller homes, or maybe they live in a building, or maybe they live with, I don't know, their entire family and they don't have privacy. I mean, I think that there's a lot of prejudgment going on right now. And I'm seeing it all over Facebook, and it's bothering me because, mindset is very difficult. Like being positive all the time is very, very hard, even if we're not in situations like this. And, I was reading a study by Psychology Today recently that said like 50% they did a study that showed that 50% of us have negative thoughts, like most of the time, right? And, I think a lot of that is kind of driven from just scrolling through Facebook and scrolling through social media, maybe scrolling through Instagram and reading and seeing what other people are doing, right? Oh, look, this person is in amazing shape, or this person has a fancy car, so they must be rich, or, this person is always smiling in pictures with their children, they must be always happy. And so, that's not always the case. And that's why I try to be as real as I possibly can, where yes, I have great kids and I have an amazing wife and I have a nice house and, I have a great job and I have a nice career. But none of that really matters, because at the same time, you know, I'm diagnosed bipolar depression, anxiety, I have ADHD. And luckily about a year ago when I was diagnosed with ADHD, that really for me, put it all together, because I started to get the right treatment. And so everything kind of started to, well, I would say about 80% of the time I'm in a good mood. But then there's moments where, like, you know, snap of a finger, I don't know what happens. I could just get really angry or upset or pissed off or sad, and there's really no reason for it. But you know, and luckily in this, I'm it's interesting. So people think that I'm this extrovert, which is actually not true. Like I feel more comfortable when I'm like at home and not in front of a lot of people, or like having to like schmooze or talk to this person or that person. So, you know, while I love doing stuff like this, it's not like my natural, it's not natural for me in a sense. Like, it seems natural, but every time I'm doing this, I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not saying the right thing, or I'm not prepared, or I'm nervous, but the fact of the matter is I would much rather be home and on the couch. And so this for me is actually something that I enjoy, right? Although I'd love to like go to the movies or go to the mall or take my kids to the park or do whatever. But like, we have to stop for a second and think about, okay, not everybody is like me. If I'm feeling great and I'm feeling happy and I'm feeling positive, and someone isn't, don't judge them, right? Like I made a post a few weeks ago, kind of maybe 2 weeks into the quarantine, and it was taken the wrong way. I was like, hey, you know, if you don't come out of this with like some new skill or whatever, you know, then you didn't have I forget exactly what I said. It was like saying that now you have all the time in the world, and before you didn't. I can't even remember what I said, right? Because I think now I don't agree with what I said, right?
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot. And I think like we also live in a world where like if you change your mind, you get shamed for it, right? Like I changed my mind. I admitted that what I said at the time, I believed it, right? And then 6-7 weeks in, maybe I don't believe it as much, right? I still think that like we can still do things to keep ourselves productive. Like we can read a book, we can maybe watch a movie that we never got to watch, we can listen to a podcast, we could do some research on something. But you know, like what it comes down to is like everybody leads a different life and everybody has a different situation. And so like you may have been more productive before just because your kids were in school and you had daycare and, you know, you were able to drop them off somewhere, or you're a single parent, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But there's a lot of judgment going on, and judgment leads to shame, and shame can lead to you know, depression or anxiety, or just feeling like you're not accomplishing enough. And it might be very difficult. Like for me, you know, I usually stay up till midnight just because I have a lot on my mind. And when the kids go to sleep, my wife goes to sleep around 10 o'clock, you know, I have 2 hours of peace where I can just, you know, get some extra stuff done, and I enjoy that. But, you know, a lot of people, they can't do that. And I think I mentioned that in my post, like, you know, I stay up till midnight doing things. I mean, my 4-year-old wakes up 3 times a night still. He's almost 5. But I think like, what we have to start doing is start putting ourselves in other people's shoes. You know, if you're not a parent right now, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea what that's like.
No.
Right? So for people saying, oh, just shove an iPad in their face. No, you can't do that all day.
No.
Right? Like, you can't do that all day. And not to mention, I have a child with Tourette's. My son is 7. He really can only play a game on my phone or my iPad for like 30 minutes, or else he starts to tick and get very anxious. So I can't do that. Like, you don't know a lot of the reasons why people can't do certain things that you think are so easily solved problems. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that go into everything. If you're not a parent, right, you cannot tell me what I should do during the quarantine with my kids. You just can't, because you don't know what my kids are like.
No.
You don't know if they have any special needs.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about my kids. So we need to stop being armchair experts when it comes to these things, right? And we need to say, okay, what do you need? What are you feeling? You know, what can I do, right? If you're seeing someone who's struggling, don't say, you know, walk it off, go exercise, take a deep breath. Because like a lot of that's bullshit, right? Like most of it, I mean, I exercise and I read and I try to eat healthy, but that doesn't help my overall, like I can't exercise all day, right? Like we have to stop for a second and think about what other people are going through right now, because everybody is in their own little world. Everybody knows what works for them. Like if one more person tells me to take essential oils to help me feel better, I'm going to like jump off my freaking roof. Seriously. When did essential oils become like the cure all? Like
put them on the bottom of your feet, Nick. That's really the kicker, right?
What?
You put them on the bottom of your feet, I hear. That's the real kicker.
Oh, your son has Tourette's? You should rub essential oils on his chest. Oh my gosh. All these years of finding out what he had, and we found out he has Tourette's, we could have just given him essential oils. Like, oh my gosh.
No offense to the essential oils people.
No, but it's my son has Tourette's, right? Yeah. It's a mental, like he has vocal and motor tics that you cannot cure. You can like push them down with treatment and medication, but they will never, ever, ever go away. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with depression, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, and it's not something that you could just exercise away, right? You can make yourself feel better for a short period of time by reading and meditating. But if someone who's got severe depression can't get out of bed, you can't even get to the gym or over to the other side of the room to pick up the weights. So I just think that we all need to just realize, like, that everybody's in this position, been through this before, unless you're like my grandma who's 100, right? And lived through, you know, a couple other pandemics. But if you're 40 like me, 41, but if you're 40 like me, we've never been through this before. So nobody's an expert. So we all have to kind of help each other. Nobody knows better. So what's working for you? That's awesome. Don't judge me because it's not working for me. Let's talk through it. Let's help each other, right? And so I think that that's what we're forgetting right now. Like when I'm seeing on Facebook, oh man, I just put like 10 million under contract. What coronavirus? Oh my God, get out of here. Seriously. You know what I mean? What do you mean, what coronavirus? 40,000 people died in Michigan. Like, or 40,000 people are infected in Michigan. You're telling me what coronavirus? Like, that's a stupid thing to say. So have some empathy, understand what people are going through, try to put yourself in their shoes. And I think after this, keep doing that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Keep doing that. Because I can tell you that I have dozens of people a week reaching out to me who feel the same way I do, who are going through mental issues, right? Who are having trouble, but they feel like if they talk about it publicly, people are going to shame them or judge them because it's like this taboo thing where you can't feel anything other than positive, especially in the real estate industry. You know, I hear all the time, positivity, positivity, positivity. And you know what? Like, we're all human. We're not robots. So it's just very frustrating for me when I hear, especially our top agents and leaders, you know, you have to have a smile on your face all the time, right? Like, that's the one thing I've learned is always have a smile on your face. You know, don't show anything other than a smile unless you're behind a closed door with no one else in there with you. And like, I think it's okay to show some vulnerability. Like, leaders don't have all the answers, right? And I think it's even better if you admit when you were wrong about something. And so that's why for me, I was like, you know what? I need to admit that, like, I was wrong about saying that thing that I said because I think it was too soon, right? I think it was only a couple weeks into the pandemic, and it was at that point and it wasn't even a quote that I made up. I just agreed with it. And then later on, I'm like, you know what? That's probably not true for everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, my wife. What? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, a lot of people, if you want to hear my story, you can go to the One Thing podcast, episode 78, the One Thing podcast, episode 78. A lot of you know the story, but a lot of you don't know that I struggle with addiction, primarily alcoholism. And I hit my rock bottom 8 years ago. And I think by being open and vulnerable and talking about this stuff, we call it the yets, right? Like the thing that hasn't happened yet. Like, I almost killed someone, yet my yet is that all that's left is I could kill someone. And I think, you know, Nick, you said a few things, but really what's at stake here is human life. like suicide rates are higher, like people are dying from addiction because that's where they go, that's where they isolate. And I remember a call a few weeks ago, a client called someone and she said, I need to get out of my house. I live with an abuser and I can't leave now. And so the abuse has escalated. And we don't think about the children where school was the safe place, right? Home wasn't, and now they're at home. And so I think you're so right, Nick, like we can't assume anything right now.
No, I've heard a lot about the domestic violence increasing, and it's something, and it's sad because we can't go anywhere, right? I mean, and it's one of those things where like I was saying to my wife the other day, I don't want to like jinx it, but like we've been getting along better than we ever have, and maybe that's because I don't know, maybe I don't know why I don't know why, honestly. Like I really don't know why maybe this is good for us as a family, like I spending more time together, or I mean I have no idea why we're getting along better. I wish I could say here's what we're doing, but it's not everybody's in that position. And I think like you're quarantined with someone for a long time, and it could be bad, right? Like it could just go the complete opposite. The kids, like I remember I was reading on it was like BuzzFeed or something, and Justin Timberlake said some stupid thing about how parenting 24 hours a day is just so hard, right? Like it was just some celebrities and should never comment on anything having to do with having to do something all the time, having to parent all the time. And I think like he got a lot of backlash on social media for it. It's like, dude, shut up. Like what, your nanny isn't available to you now, so you're complaining that you have to be a parent? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, welcome to like the normal world of people that don't have millions of dollars and can't hire full-time chefs and nannies. But this is what it's like. And meanwhile, I think he was at his like 10,000 acre ranch in Montana when he said it. So it's not like you're really quarantined, buddy. But, that's another example. Like, someone who hit success at a very early age in his teens never really went through a normal life and never really experienced what we all experienced, right? Like, I think when I'm 41 now, but I think when I was like 26, 27, I was still asking my parents for money, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I remember what that was like. And so now I have kids, I never want to ask my parents for money, and I haven't had to do it in over 10 years. So I'm really happy about that. But like, you have to really think about, just because you might be okay right now and you might be able to get through something, not everybody's in that position. Like, especially if you're in a state where real estate's non-essential. I mean, you can't physically show a house, which I think if you were essential, you should be doing it safely anyway, and still trying to think of other ways to do it so you don't have to physically be there. But if you're not essential, you might not have the money to hire a photographer to do a Matterport tour, or get a fancy camera, or, pay for Zoom or whatever, or increase your cell phone bill so you can have, extended Wi-Fi for forever, right? Like, do you know how much my cell phone bill is for my wife and I? It's like $400 a month. Mm-hmm. It's because we have unlimited everything. Like, there's things that we don't take into consideration when it comes to that. Like, even getting unlimited data so you can have these calls is something that a lot of us can't even afford, right? So let's stop judging and start putting ourselves in people's shoes and start helping each other. Hey, listen, do you want to borrow my Zoom account? You know what I mean? Hey, do you want to borrow, can I pay for like a Matterport tour so you can get this listing? Or, how are you doing, right? Like a simple, how are you doing? Like, I'll give you an example. I have a barber. She does my beard. Clearly she doesn't do my hair, but she does my beard. Her name is Catherine, and she's become like a friend, right? And I know that, she does well, but the barbershops are closed, right? And I was like, and I always feel nervous about approaching this. I text her, I was like, hey, I just want to see how you're doing, right? Like, I go, listen, I know that like I was in the commission-based business. Like, I know that you're not cutting hair. I go, so if I'm coming from a wrong place right now, just let me know. I go, but if you need like, because she would also sometimes come to my house to do my beard, and then sometimes I'll go to the barber shop.
Mhm.
I'm like, listen, I'm like, if you need $500, like we can just like attribute that to beards uncut, later on down the line, and you owe me like X amount of beard trims. She's like, you know what? She goes, just the fact that you asked me that, she goes, that just made my entire day. She goes, and if I need that, I will definitely let you know. I was like, I was like, cool. I'm not going to give her the 500, right? But, when she comes to my house, I pay her $50 to do my beard. When I go to the barbershop, it's $25. So I'm like, listen, let's attribute that to X amount of beard trims, and you can come to my house and do it. And if you need it. And so she just said, just me thinking of her and asking her that, and knowing that if she needs to, she can ask me, just made her feel a lot better. We need to start doing more of that stuff. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a great point, Nick. And Kathy's asked a question, what are the things that help you get through your humps? And I think you just hit the nail on the head. For me, number one, what I've learned over the last 8 years in dealing with my thoughts and changing that is to get out of myself and help someone else. That's like the first thing that I do is, who can I go to that I can help so that I can get out of my own head? So what are some other things, Nick, that help you get through those lower times and those humps?
I do notice a direct correlation between like reading or not reading. So like if I like this morning, I woke up, even if I would just read for 15 minutes. And right now I'm reading a book. By the way, I feel like you don't always have to read a book that betters yourself. Like, you don't always have to read a book about leadership or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
a reading teacher told me once, do you eat chicken every day? No,
right.
You got to switch it up.
So I'm reading a book right now called Idiot, and it's by Laura Cleary, who is hysterical. And I don't know if you follow her on Facebook and Instagram, but Brinley, she was an addict, alcoholism, cocaine. And, now she is making 7 figures, making ridiculous videos on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram with her husband. And she just had a baby, and she's very transparent. But the book's called Idiot, and it's just funny. But it's not. But she talks about her addict life, but in a humorous way. But I was like, I gotta read this because this woman's out of her mind. She just did the one with the she has a bunch of characters, but you gotta watch. You gotta.
She's the workout girl.
Yeah, the workout. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pamela
now I
Pupkin.
put 2 and 2 together.
But she's been around for a while, and she has like 10 million followers on Instagram and Facebook, and she is hysterical. But the book was published a couple months ago. But she talks about it in a very comedic way, but it's also, got a seriousness to it, but it just makes me laugh. So this morning for, 15 minutes, I would sit down and read, and my 4-year-old's like, Daddy, don't read. I want you to, play this video game with me. I'm like, listen, I need to read. You play your video game, I need to read. But I think like I do notice the difference, whether it's 10 or 15 minutes, I need to read every day or every night for a little while. And we've been exercising on our deck. We have a big deck, and we got some exercise equipment. So my wife and I exercise together. So probably around 1 o'clock today, I'll have an hour to do that. We will take walks in our subdivision because we have a pond in our subdivision that has turtles and frogs and koi fish. And so we walk to the pond with the kids. Like yesterday, my wife went on a walk for an hour and a half with our kids. We have a basketball court in our subdivision that we can go to if nobody else is there. We can't go to the playground, unfortunately, but we can go to the basketball court. So things like that. And luckily, we live in Michigan, so there's a lot of places we can go hike. My subdivision has a lot of forest around it, so we're always walking around in the forest, and there's some trails. So getting outside, even if you can't go someplace, getting outside is good. Somebody asked a question.
I'll add to that, Nick, real quick. So taking a
what
drive.
Triggers do you look for? What triggers do you look for in your mental health space to know you're going off the rails? So it's been a long time since I've been off the rails, right? But like, there's really no triggers for me. Like, honestly, like we could hang up this call and I could just be in a bad mood, like, and it came out of nowhere. But I'll tell you something, like medication I'm all for it. Like I take 3 antidepressants, and if I wasn't on those antidepressants, I'd be a mess. So like honestly, that's what works for me. Like, I have been to therapy for 15 years, and finally I have medication that works for me, and mixed with the other things that I was just talking about, keeps me pretty positive most of the time. Weekends are hard for me, especially Saturdays, just because like Monday through Friday, I'm like going. And then on Saturday I wake up and it's like stops, right? And it's different. Like, I love spending time with my kids, but that change, that rapid change from nonstop, like working, my mind moving a million miles a minute, to nothing, to not doing that. So Saturdays are hard, especially in the beginning of the day. So I feel very like, I feel very anxious. I feel very like I'm short, like I have to, take a lot of deep breaths. It's just Saturday mornings are difficult.
Yeah. We had a couple more questions, Nick, that I want to get to. Andrew, did you have a question? And then Deldy, I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. Hey, Nick, good morning.
Hey, what's up?
So first I want to say thank you. Nick's
long-time listener, first-time caller. Just kidding.
Thanks, Pete. He's been incredibly nice. I've been off the scale for years, ADHD, and between Nick being so honest with his condition and Karina here in Houston telling me, like, put the pieces of paper back together, I got diagnosed and, I'm ADHD. And if I don't take my medicine, it just doesn't work. So I appreciate you and your struggles. I put in the comments, hey, shift happens, just because I know you hate that. One more person say shift happens, you're going to lose your shift. Okay, so real quick, I don't know that everyone knows your wife had COVID-19. I know we only have 3 minutes left, so that's scary. Congratulations, she's better. Maybe can you tell us a tiny bit firsthand what it's like?
Yeah,
and then let me give you can I give you my last big question? So the moment when you were in, I forget the other name, the other command group, you tried to show how command could be used to marketing and you got your butt kicked. You moved over to Command Your Conversion, and overnight it's like 10,000 people. And then Lab Code is over 100. How do you use those things, I'll say for good, without going, hey, buy this program or come to this seminar? Like, how do you, sorry, my dogs, how do you manage that for the greater good?
So real quick, because I have to jump off in 2 minutes. My wife had COVID. Luckily, it wasn't like a super crazy, I mean, I don't know if it was super crazy. I know that at that point, they weren't admitting you into the hospital unless you were literally dying. But she was sick. She had a fever for 3 weeks. All the symptoms, dizziness, body aches, the whole nine. So that was difficult because I still had to work. And so we were, obviously I wasn't working as much. So we got through that. Things are good on that end. In terms of the groups, we have like a lot of moderators that help us out too. And so we when we notice the group kind of like going off the rails in a sense, we'll lock it down and put post approval. And people like to self promote, and they pride themselves in being social media experts. And so my whole thing is like, and I'm no expert, right? But if you need, how do I phrase this? Everybody's a coach. Like, everybody's a coach, right? So it's like everybody is selling something in one way, shape, or form. And listen, like, it might be a really good product to buy, but you have to differentiate yourself. So we don't allow anybody to sell anything in the group unless Tristan and I look it over and make sure that we think it's a product that we want to like promote and give to our members, because everything at this point comes right back to us. If something sucks, like, it's our fault. So we really have to like make sure that what we're putting in front of them, and we've looked at a lot of products over the last 5 years to know like what's good and what's not. If something's not good, we don't typically talk about how it wasn't good because it wasn't good for us. But we know that we have a pedestal where, like, if we say something sucks, that's irresponsible because it doesn't necessarily suck. It just didn't work for us. So we have to be responsible when it comes to
Nick,
that.
I know I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have to jump off. If people have questions for you around this topic, because I know we didn't get to everything, can they contact you, and where?
You can email me, nickbaldwin@kw.com. Or you can just message me on Facebook.
Yeah, Nick Baldwin at kw.com. If you would like to contact me, I'm Brinley at kw.com, Brinley at kw.com. Nick, thank you so much. I mean, this was incredible.
No problem. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And let me know if you need anything. And I'm always around if you're feeling like you're getting down or you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious. I mean, you know, don't feel like you're weak because you need to talk about it. You're actually a lot stronger if you want to talk about it. So
100%. 100%. Guys, have an awesome week. Figure out what makes you happy and do what makes you happy. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Nick.